The Lasgun, also sometimes referred to as a Las rifle, is a directed energy anti-personnel weapon used by the military forces of the Imperium of Man, and it is the most common and widely used type of laser weapon in the galaxy. It is standard issue for the Adeptus Mechanicus Cybernetics Guitarii infantry, all Astra Militarum rank and file infantry, and most junior Astra Militarum officers. Lasguns are reliable, easy to maintain and to produce, and are readily available on most Imperial worlds. A Lasgun has a longer range than a Las pistol, but is nowhere near as powerful as a Las cannon, nor does it possess the rapid-firing qualities of the multi-laser or the Hellgun. Though not as powerful as kinetic projectile weapons such as the ubiquitous bolter. The lower cost of production, the lack of a requirement for ammunition production and resupply make the Lasgun the best choice for the large forces of the Imperial Guard. The Lasgun uses a small portable capacitor power pack to produce a focused pinpoint laser beam which is strong enough to take an ordinary human arm off with one shot, but is not as effective against the more durable alien bodies and stronger types of personal armor. A Lasgun's beam also cauterizes the wounds it inflicts due to the immense heat given off by the shot. The Lasgun is effective when used en masse, but considerably less effective when used alone. The Lasgun uses the same basic technology and operates along the same lines as other laser weapons, emitting a beam of highly energetic, focused, coherent photons. The high amount of energy carried by the photons of the beam causes the immediate surface area of a target to be vaporized in a small explosion. It is a relatively unimpressive weapon when compared to many of the other high-technology weapons available in the galaxy, but it is capable of cleanly severing limbs and potentially even piercing the power armor of a space marine, but usually only through a vulnerable spot in the armor. Most Lasgun designs have iron sights mounted along the top of the weapon. It is powered by a small rechargeable power pack located beneath the weapon and in front of the trigger guard, which can be recharged in a number of ways, including by sunlight. These power packs can also be overcharged, a trick used by Imperial Guard veterans, which causes the pack to explode, turning the weapon into a makeshift grenade. This tactic is only used in last-ditch situations as it results in destruction of the weapon. Lasguns have numerous power settings for adjusting the power of each shot and to conserve power, resulting in a weaker laser shot fired. The weapon can be overpowered with a hotshot laser capacitor pack, providing more powerful but fewer shots. The Lasgun mounts a bayonet lug, allowing the weapon to be fitted with bayonets or combat knives. The sniper variant of the Lasgun, known as the Long Las, is the preferred weapon of the Imperial Guard sharpshooters. The barrel of the Long Las is extended to bolster the weapon's accuracy. The barrel requires replacement after every 20 to 50 shots, depending on the power setting and cooldown time. For this reason, the Long Las is outfitted with a slide-lock barrel, which is easily locked and unlocked from the weapon's housing. The standard Lasgun pattern used by the Imperial Guard is known as the M35M Galaxy pattern, first put into use in 789 of M35. Although thousands of variant models, marks, and patterns exist, the Cadian shock troops, for example, commonly bear the M36 Cantrell pattern Las rifle, originally manufactured on Cantrell as the name suggests, which is a weapon known for its sheer robustness. The Cadican jungle fighters prefer the Mark IV Lascarbine, which has less cowling than the M36 and is therefore lighter and easier to carry in the dense jungle environs preferred by the Cadican regiments. Other common marks include the easily manufactured Mars and Armageddon pattern Lasguns, the much sought-after variable power setting triplex pattern, and the short-barreled, folding stock models used by Imperial Guard mechanized infantry, tank crews, and troops assigned to starship or space station details. Even more exotic are the intricately crafted heirloom weapons used by the troops of regiments of the Vostroyan Firstborn and the Akatran pattern Mark IV, which is much valued by Elysian drop troops and other drop troopers for its compact size and accuracy at short range. Despite these variations, the main mechanism of every Lasgun remains the same in almost all regiments. This makes the logistics of supplying multi-regiment armies a much simpler matter for the Dipartimento Munitorum. Other variants of this weapon include the more compact Las pistol, the anti-armor Las cannon, and the more powerful and expensive Hellgun. The Imperial Standard Lasgun, as used by most of the regiments of the Imperial Guard, has many attachments including but not limited to several types of scope, bayonet, laser sight, and flashlight. The Lasgun and Las pistol are weapons generally meant for dealing with lightly armored infantry, and thus lack the brute power of more advanced weapons from the Imperium's arsenal, like bolters or plasma guns. This has led the weapon to be scorned by some of the Imperial Guard's soldiers and officers as flashlights. However, a Lasgun's relative power should be assessed only when comparing it with more powerful Imperial weapons, as even a Las pistol beam is capable of killing an unarmored target, causing immediate death. When set to maximum power, Lasguns have been known to penetrate weak spots in Chaos Space Marine power armor, with the shot penetrating the neck joint or even decapitating the foul creature in an instant, but the Lasgun excels at massed volley fire. A hail of Las shots from dozens, if not hundreds of Lasgun barrels can stop the charge of hordes of lightly armored opponents like Chaos Cultists or Orc Boys dead in their tracks. Concentrated Las fire upon even a very powerful single armored target can eventually overwhelm that target's armor. Despite its lack of damage output, the Lasgun remains a favored weapon of Imperial soldiers, for it has many redeeming qualities. It is a solid and rugged weapon that remains reliable and precise in almost any environment, and requires very little maintenance. A quick cleanup while mumbling a prayer to the weapon's machine spirit after usage is all that is needed to keep it going for over 10,000 shots, after which the focusing crystals must be replaced, an action that requires the intervention of a knowledgeable tech priest. Unlike a flamer or a meltagun, the Lasgun can be outfitted with a bayonet or used as a club at close quarters without risk of damaging the weapon, and it will never overheat with potentially fatal results for its operator like a dreaded plasma gun. Another redeeming quality of the Lasgun is that its power pack can be recharged by exposure to sunlight or by being put into a campfire for a few minutes, ensuring that the weapon almost never runs out of ammunition, even on prolonged operations or in situations where resupply is unlikely. Often employed by Elysian drop troop regiments and drop troops regiments drawn from other worlds, the Acatran Mark IV is a bullpup-style Lasgun with an integrated lamp pack. The lamp pack is powered by the same power cell that provides the Lasgun's ammunition, but the power draw is so small as to be negligible. The compact design of the weapon is due in part to the power cell's location in the stock. The smaller profile of the Acatran Mark IV is perfectly suited to the drop missions Elysian regiments often undertake, easily maneuvered at short range or fired from the hip. Further, its lighter design allows wielders to carry other equipment in place of the extra bulk, which can be particularly vital for regiments that favor grav shoots as a means of deployment. The Acatran pattern Mark IV Lasgun is a heavier variant of the standard Acatran Mark IV preferred by the regiments of the Elysian drop troops. Imperial Guard units focused towards aerial or vehicular deployment often utilize Lasgun variants that are designed to increase portability and minimize size. While many employ Las carbines, other such units are unwilling to sacrifice the standard Lasgun's effective range. The bullpup design counters this by extending the barrel into the weapon's stock, as well as mounting the power pack within the base of the stock behind the grip. In this way, the Las rifle achieves a balance between the compact design of a carbine while retaining most of the full capability of a standard Lasgun. Made in large numbers for Calix's PDF use, the Drusus Prime is in fact a local copy of the ubiquitous Rizim pattern Lasgun made by numerous forges and manufacturers. All weapons of this type made in the Calixus sector are named in honor of the warrior saint and bear a crude stamp of his profile on their casing. A simple charge repeater Lasgun, the Drusus Prime is perhaps the most widely produced long arm in the sector, and the sheer numbers stolen from armories and legitimately traded over the centuries make it the most likely of its type to be found in the hands of gangers, criminals, and low-grade guns for hire. From scintilla to Baraspine, the Fractrix pattern assault laser is produced by the Forge World of Fractrix. Though it is capable of firing 5 shots per solar second, it uses twin power packs that allow for only 15 solar seconds of continuous fire. It is also fitted with a multiple target designation rangefinder able to detect heat patterns, and a safety located above the trigger guard which controls power to the weapon and optical array. While the assault laser is a very reliable directed energy weapon, its focus prism requires replacement after every 1,000 shots, a process which requires the ministrations of a tech priest and greatly limits the assault laser's usefulness during extended firefights as opposed to rapid assaults. Adept Gudmans of the 13th Penal Legion was once the manager of the Manufactoria assembly lines that crafted these weapons until he was convicted of an imperial crime and sentenced, sometimes known as hell guns. Hotshot weapons are almost exclusively used by high-ranking imperial officers and elite forces who favor the higher power provided by these weapons over standard-issue LOS weapons. While hell guns are rarely seen outside of elite stormtrooper units, hell pistols can be seen among many in the Imperial Guard officer corps and among inquisitorial agents, where the extra hitting power they provide over a regular LOS pistol often means the difference between their life and failure to the Emperor. Hotshot weapons use a 10 kg backpack power source rather than a standard plug-in charge pack, even for the smaller hell pistol. Larger power packs mean greater power behind each shot but make reloading more impractical, which is a trade-off most are willing to make. Hell guns can also be linked to larger backpack power sources, part weapon system and part bionic replacement. These integrated weapons give the Adeptus Mechanicus guardians of the Lathe worlds in the Calixus sector a clear advantage over most conventional forces. Each integrated lathe laserful is linked directly to a potentia coil, providing it with a near-endless amount of energy to draw from, and allowing these ancient weapons to deliver punishing volleys of fire without pause. Originally derived from an ancient archaeotech design, the integrated lathe laserful packs a greater punch than a standard Lasgun. The standard weapon of the Calician Mechanicus feared Crimson Guard, lathe laserfuls are fast becoming a more and more common sight throughout the Calixus sector. The Calibrax V1 pattern LOS rifle was the standard armament of the Imperial Army's Solar Auxilia regiments during the Great Crusade. The weapon was considered of a higher quality than most standard patterns of LOS guns and Lascarbines, and was most notable for its heavily reinforced energy transfer capacitors, general durability in a wide variety of planetary environments, and superior heat dissipation qualities. The Lascarbine is a lighter, shorter-barreled version of the Lasgun that is easier to carry and aim. It is more convenient to fire from one hand, and often will possess a folding stock. But in exchange, a Lascarbine possesses fewer shots and a shorter range than a full-barreled Lasgun. Originally derived from an ancient archaeotech design, the integrated lathe laserful packs a greater punch than regular Lasguns. Whilst uncommon on the spinward front, the lathe laserful is the weapon most often seen in the hands of the few Crimson Guard units that serve in the fight against the Severan Dominate. Favored by Imperial Guard sharpshooters, the long LOS, originally known as the sniper variant Lasgun, is a specially modified version of the Lasgun constructed for added range and accuracy. As its name implies, a long LOS also has a much longer barrel than a standard Lasgun, sometimes being up to twice the length, which makes it awkward to wield in close quarters. The lock pattern is a commonly deployed variant of the Lasgun, which possesses a shorter barrel length than the standard Lasgun, decreasing its range, but making it easier to use in enclosed spaces. Lucius Pattern Number 98 Lasgun, the signature weapon of the Death Corps of Krieg. The Lucius Pattern Lasgun operates in the 21 megathal range, but is designed to draw from a standard Munitorum issue power pack. Consequently, the Lucius Lasgun discharges a more powerful shot, but drains the power pack at a correspondingly increased rate. This also puts a great strain on the weapon, limiting the rate of fire and requiring such features as additional heat sink rings lining the exterior of the barrel. Even with such considerations, an overtaxed Lucius Lasgun can quickly overheat. The added danger of the weapon overheating does not perturb the famously stoic Krieg MG short pattern Lasgun, a standard pattern Lasgun used by the regiments of the Astra Militarum. Its technical specifications are outlined below. M36 Cantrell pattern Loss Rifle, standard Loss Rifle used by the Imperial Guards regiments of Cadian shock troops and the regiments raised from many other worlds that use Cadian war gear and martial traditions as a model for their own. This variant of the standard Cantrell pattern is also used by the Cadian shock troopers for increased accuracy. Mark IV Katakan Lasgun, standard Lasgun used by the regiments of the Katakan jungle fighters and considered particularly useful in dense forested or wooded terrain like that found on many jungle worlds across the galaxy because of its reduced barrel length. Mark III Lasgun, with Nalwood stock. This is the Lasgun pattern used by the Tanith-born members of the Tanith First and only Mars pattern Loss Rifle. This is the Lasgun pattern used by the regiments of the Juran Dragoons and the Talern Desert Raiders. Mars pattern Mark II Lasgun. The Mars pattern Mark II Lasgun was the standard armament of the Imperial Army during the Great Crusade and Horus Heresy eras. Designed purely for close-range assaults, the Maravec pattern Lasgun is heavily reinforced and has a bayonet built into its short and heavy frame. Slots for 2 power packs are included so the gun can switch to a fresh pack with no reloading. Since the firefights it is designed for are typically over long before 2 packs are exhausted. It serves its intended function perfectly, designed for close combat assaults, trench fighting, and urban warfare. The Model 481 Persuader Lasgun is a pulsing laser weapon capable of a tremendous rate of fire. Though intended for use by planetary militias and the Imperial Guard, the Persuader has also carved a niche for itself among underworld figures looking for an edge in sheer firepower. The compact size of the Persuader, combined with its high volume of fire, makes it an excellent all-around choice for most combat situations, though its relatively short range can be a liability on an open battlefield. For most, however, its shortcomings are far outweighed by the Persuader's utility. Especially when paired with an oversized drum power pack that nearly doubles the weapon's capacity. Necromunda pattern Lasgun. These Lasguns are manufactured on the hive world of Necromunda. The first Retribution pattern Longloss was reportedly a modified Imperial Guard issue Longloss, constructed by a sniper belonging to a regiment of the Bronchian Longknives. Angry over the destruction of his regiment in bloody frontal assaults during the 5th Battle of Colden Gap, he deserted and proceeded to kill 4 of his former senior officers and 5 commissars before his position was annihilated by a retaliatory mortar strike. In the subsequent centuries, similar weapons have been constructed by various artisans in the Calixis sector and the Coronis Expanse. The Retribution is a stripped-down Longloss, sacrificing some of the weapon's reliability and clip size. In exchange, the Retribution has a much shorter barrel, for easy concealment, and can be broken into half a dozen pieces that can easily be hidden within a specially designed pack. In addition, the weapon is rigged to fire in a non-visible light spectrum, decreasing penetration slightly but ensuring the retribution's discharge is unnoticeable. Breaking down or assembling the weapon takes roughly 30 seconds for a practiced individual. In addition, there is almost no flash or sound from the loss burst, making it extremely difficult to detect when the retribution is firing via sight or sound. The Ryza pattern Lasgun is produced on the Forge world of Ryza and used by many different Astra Militarum regiments that receive their armaments from that outpost of the priesthood of Mars. Shot loss, an illegal modification of a standard Lasgun popular amongst the techrites and armor-mongers of the world of footfall. The shot loss is rigged to discharge more energy per shot, at the cost of beam coherence, with the weapon's shots swiftly losing power and becoming ineffective at longer ranges. Solex Pattern 9 Deathlight Lasgun, made to the requirements of the Magnagorsk guilds by the Mechanicus sect of Solex. The Deathlight is an extremely powerful compact Lasgun with a folding stock designed to fire high-energy blasts. These blasts, considerably stronger than a normal Lasgun discharge, can easily burn through the thick insulation suits worn throughout Magnagorsk Hive. Their power-hungry nature, however, means Solex guns are far less efficient than most Las weapons and dangerous if overcharged. Stutterloss, another common illegal modification. Stutterloss pistols trade accuracy and reliability for rate of fire, charging quickly to unleash a hail of loss blasts. Though seldom as potent as the discharges of most loss weapons. The spray of light and heat is effective at close quarters. Triplex Pattern Lasgun, a highly refined variant of the standard Lasgun. The triplex pattern offers alternative firing modes that make the weapon more versatile on the battlefield. Voss Pattern Lasgun. The Voss pattern is the standard Lasgun used by the regiments of the Armageddon Steel Legion. Bostorian Pattern Lasgun. The Bostorian Pattern Lasgun is used by the regiments of the Bostorian Firstborn. Each of these weapons is known across the galaxy for its fine craftsmanship and the handcrafted details that often mark the weapon. Losslock weapons. A losslock is an energy weapon that uses much of the same technology as a standard Lasgun or Loss pistol, but more closely resembles a flintlock rifle. Losslocks are, presumably, adaptations of present-day laser weapons technology that are used by less technologically advanced societies who have regressed from the modern-day imperial standard. Losslocks are single-shot, with primitive capacitors that require the need to reload after every shot. While this presents many problems with the rate of fire, the single laser bolt that Losslocks fire is considerably more powerful than those fired by standard imperial laser weapons. Losslocks are often seen in use by the occupational troops deployed by the forces of chaos when they seize an imperial planet. Particularly the law enforcement forces known as the Excubitors. However, many Astra Militarum soldiers, especially those with an interest in archaic weapons, will carry Losslock rifles or pistols as backup weapons.